Welcome back to your nightmares, my children. This is Mr. Minna speaking. I welcome you all to my humble abode. Today, I will be sharing with you some Craigslist horror stories that will make you fear Craigslist. So sit tight and let's begin. But before we do, make sure you like and subscribe. Because if you do not, I will devour you. So now buckle up and always remember the darkness always follows. I will now leave you with my narrator, so enjoy.
Don't use Craigslist. Trust me when I tell you this. Don't use Craigslist. I know that may be obvious. It's not ideal. Meeting up with a stranger and giving them money and giving them your address or going to their house. About a week ago, I decided I needed a new phone. I chose to look on Craigslist. I found the perfect deal. A new iPhone 12 for only 400 bucks. What a steal. I tried to contact the person that was selling the iPhone, but he didn't respond. Well, that's weird. But I didn't think much about it. Over the next couple of days, I continued to message him, but he still didn't respond. But finally, he did. He only sent me his address, and only his address, which was weird. When I responded, he didn't say anything after that. So the next day, I decided to go to this guy's house, which was a really stupid move looking at it now. When driving down the rocky street, it seemed like nobody lived in any house on the street. But ignoring that red flag, I went to his house. Seeing the house, it was dark. The wood was old and uneven. But once again, I ignored that as well. When walking to the front door, I noticed the grass was uncut and rough. It went up to my knees. When I approached the front door, it just swung open, which startled me. "Hey, what the hell?" I said, almost falling on the rocky floor. "Do you want the phone or not?" a man said in a deep and dark voice. Yeah, I have $400 in cash. Is that what you want?" I spoke. "Yeah, that'll work," he said. I walked up and gave him the money. He snatched it from me and slammed the door in my face. I started to yell, "Hey man, what the F?" I said, angered. He didn't open the door for what seemed like hours. But when he finally did, he just stuck his arm out with the phone. After I grabbed it and thanked him, after I said, "Oh, by the way, what's your name?" He paused, then he said, John Smith." After that, I turned around and walked away. But I didn't hear him close the door. When I turned on my car, I looked at the door. I saw him. I saw him still staring at me. Creeped out, I put all my weight on the gas pedal and floated down the street. When I got home, I was way too tired to actually set up the phone. I fell asleep once my head hit the pillow. When I woke up, I turned the phone on, but I noticed something strange, something unusual. I noticed that the phone was still signed in with the last person, probably the creepy guy that sold it to me. So feeling a little nosy and curious, I opened the phone. "What an idiot," I said, laughing. "That guy didn't even have a password. That is too easy," I thought. After opening the phone and going to the home page. I immediately went to the Photos app. After opening the app, there was nothing. There were no photos in the camera roll. Weirded out, I went to the photo albums, and that's when I found something. The photo album was titled A Fun Night, with a winking emoji. At first, I thought the pictures or videos in there would be very different, but they weren't. There were only 2 videos, both with a black thumbnail. Then I did something I regret. I played the first video. When the first video started to play, it was a black screen. The only sound I heard was soft rain. After a few seconds, the camera quickly panned up. It made me jump. It was so quick and sudden. The camera was turned to look at a car outside. The camera stayed fixed on that car for more than 30 seconds. What the hell is this? I thought to myself, confused. Then a woman actually opened the car door and got out of the car. I did not know this woman, nor have I seen her. After the camera wouldn't move away from her, a man started laughing in a maniacal tone. Then he said, "Can't wait to have a fun night with you," he said in a scratchy voice. That's when I stopped my breath. I knew that voice. That voice was the same as the man that sold me this damn phone. Thoughts began racing in my mind. Was he a murderer, I thought? Is this video a prank? After the first video ended, I went to the second one. I noticed this one was exponentially longer than the first one. While the first one was 2 minutes long, this one was 7 minutes. The same thing happened like in the first one. It started out as a blank screen with rain in the background. But the difference was it was in an abandoned warehouse. Then around 45 seconds in, I heard soft, quiet crying. Cries of a woman. "Shut your mouth," the same man yelled. She stopped immediately. The camera panned to look at the woman. He stood the camera up against the wall of the warehouse. She was the same woman that got out of the car. I started to become lightheaded because of this. Is this a sick joke? I thought. Did he actually kidnap her? Then the man reached his arm out to caress her knee. She started to whimper like a sad dog. Then right after she started to cry, he slapped her right in the face. "Shut up," I said, in a loud and demanding tone. Once again, she stopped. The man then grabbed a knife out of his pocket and cut the rope around her mouth. She started panting and breathing really heavy. The man then said in a maniacal tone, "I want to have a little fun." In one swift motion, he pushed the woman down and brought the knife up to her chin. He moved the knife around her jawline. Blood started to leak out under her chin. Then he dropped the knife and started to choke her. She started to turn purple. Then she became lifeless. He then picked up the knife and started to carve a wide smile in her face. After he finished the smile, he grabbed the camera and showed a wide and bloody smile. He started laughing and said, "Wasn't this fun?" After seeing this, I jumped out of my bed and drove to the police station. After I gave the police the phone, they figured out the man and the woman in the videos. For legal reasons, I will just say their first names. The man's name is Dale and the woman's name was Jessie. The man was convicted of murder and is now in prison for life. The woman sadly died from blood loss. Like I said in the intro, don't use Craigslist. Creepy Craigslist roommate. When I was 21, I transferred to a college in San Francisco. I checked out a room for rent on Craigslist. It wasn't a really nice 2-bedroom apartment. It was cheap rent and close to campus, so it was the ideal spot. The girl who lived there was 29 and her name was Beth. She was tall and wide, and she had jet black hair and wore pale makeup. She seemed nice, although a little quiet, but she seemed to like me and agreed to let me move in. So far, so good. My first night there, we went out for pizza, and that's when I could tell that something was a little bit off with her. Throughout dinner, she kept telling me how much I looked like Shia LaBeouf. I didn't know what to say, so I just shrugged it off with a thanks. I look nothing like Shia LaBeouf, so it just didn't make any sense to me. When we got back home, she asked if I had seen her room yet. I said no, and so she took me to see it. Her walls were covered in posters of Shia LaBeouf. She even had printed out photos of him all over her mirror. She owned all his movies. I didn't know what to make of it. It was creepy. The whole night she had been saying, I look like him. And now it's obvious to me that she's obsessed with the guy. A few weeks later, and I never really saw her that much. We didn't spend any time together really. She would come home from work and practically run to her room. She would spend the whole night in there. She had this creepy high-pitched giggle, and I would hear her giggling through the walls all night. I wondered what the hell she could possibly be doing. Occasionally, she would come out and talk for like 2 minutes, and she would always be slurring her words, so I suspected she was drinking a lot. Sometimes she wouldn't say anything, and she would just stand in the hallway and watch me in the living room. I would turn and see her and be surprised and say, "Hello, Beth," and then there would be this long awkward pause, and she would give out her creepy high-pitched giggle. It was uncomfortable being around her. She gave me the chills. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. because I heard what sounded like the front door being unlocked. I came out my bedroom and all the lights were off, but I could see Beth standing at the front door. She had her face against it, and she was turning the lock back and forth over and over again. And every time she turned the bolt, she mumbled my name, Max Barker, Max Barker, Max Barker. Seeing her standing in the dark and mumbling my name really freaked me out. And it didn't help that she kinda looks like a bigger version of the girl from The Ring. I just quietly went back to my room and tried to sleep. One night I was watching Gladiator and she stumbled out of a room and turned on the living room light, forcing me to pause the movie, which was annoying. She then asked me if I wanted to hear about her ex-boyfriend. It was an uneasy into the topic, but I just said sure and then awkwardly sat back to listen to her. 10 minutes into her story, and she was so riled up. She was screaming at the top of her lungs about their breakup. I was worried that the neighbors were going to call the cops. And she wasn't listening to me when I was asking her to lower the volume. Amidst all of her screaming, one thing she said really freaked me out. She was in such a fit and yelled, "I'll slit his effing throat." That was a big game changer. Suddenly, I had no idea what this girl was capable of. She was practically a stranger, and everything I had seen was becoming alarmingly disturbing. After a few more minutes, she told me thanks for listening, and she started doing her giggle. I got out of there pretty fast, I went to my room to go to sleep. I had a pretty unsettled feeling about being in the house with her. And what's worse is that there was no lock on my bedroom door. I pushed the edge of my dresser in front of it to act as a little barricade. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of my dresser scraping against the floor. Beth was pushing the door open. I turned on my light, shouting at her to stop. I could see her through the opening of the door. She was so drunk and had this insane look in her eyes. I pushed the door closed and yelled at her to go to bed. I could hear her walk back to her room, but I couldn't fall back to sleep. The next morning, when I went out into the hallway, my heart dropped. I saw one of her steak knives was on the floor by my door. I got goosebumps all over my arms. All I could think about was her saying she would slit that guy's throat. I confronted her about it, and she said she didn't remember trying to push my door open. She said she didn't even remember telling me about her ex. I had enough. My lease was month to month, so I found a new spot and moved out. About a month after I moved out, she contacted me. I was at the movies and my phone was off. When I got out, I turned my phone on, and to my shock, I received 40 plus text messages that she had sent me over the past 2 hours. They were all just insane texts that range from everything between "Hi, how are you?" to "I effing hate you." It was insane. I didn't respond, and I never heard from her again. I always wonder, if I hadn't set my dresser in front of my door, would she have quietly come into my room and slit my throat? It freaks me out. I will never search for apartments on Craigslist ever again. Me and my girlfriend Kylie decided to buy an apartment together. She was looking on Craigslist and saw a really luxurious penthouse apartment for only $300 a month. It was really nice as it looked over the city. It had really nice bedding, a big bathtub, and just everyone's dream apartment. Kylie calls the man and he said he is happy to show her the apartment. And she said, "Me and my boyfriend are on our way." What's weird is that the man on the phone was like, "Oh, okay, I didn't know you was having people come with you." Alarms are already starting to go off in my head when he said that. Kylie says to me that we should just see what it looks like and just leave. I agreed and we wait outside the apartment. It was really rusty looking and all it had tall grass around it. We look at the ad and we both look at each other as we saw a greasy looking man come up to us. He had a white tank top on and tan shorts with a rusty beard and braided hair. Kylie and I were kinda looking at each other in disgust. He pointed his finger at me and he said, "You stay downstairs, young man." For me, being from Canada and being young, I have never ever witnessed something like this in my life. Now I should say Kylie is from Australia and she is pretty tough. So if this man tried anything, she would kick his ass. I waited downstairs and I heard a faint scream coming from the basement. I didn't think too much of it as I thought it was just a kid outside. Then I heard it again and I decided to call the police and told them what was going on. They came after 20 minutes and Kylie pulls me outside and she says she is not gonna get this place at all, and I told her about the screams in the basement. The man was arrested and wanted in another state, and the screaming downstairs came from a woman named Stephanie, who was also interested in the apartment, which in reality Kylie said it was his house, with dirty clothes and woman's clothing. just shiz like that. I now know to never ever search for stuff on Craigslist ever again. Me and Kylie now live in a really nice rent to own home in Orange County, and all I have to say is don't always believe what you see on these Craigslist ads. You never know what kind of mastermind, sick F, lies beyond them.
Well, my children, I thank you all for listening. I hope these 3 Craigslist scary stories frightened you and filled you with fear and sorrow. I'll see you again very soon. So until then, love the darkness as it always follows.